Hey everyone, here is your fractions practice test. So you'll be taking your actual test tomorrow. If you can do this test with me, you should be able to do the test tomorrow on your own. Let's look at number 1. It says add the following fractions. So I'm going to underline add, put a plus sign. I can see I'm adding my fractions here. If I am adding fractions, I need to make sure that my denominators are the same. I can see I have 6 and 6, so I'm good. When I add 2 sixths plus 3 sixths, I'm looking to see how many 6 I have. So 2 plus 3 equals 5. I'm not dividing my pizza into smaller parts. I still have the same number of parts. So my denominator, 6, is going to be the same. So 2 sixths plus 3 sixths equals 5 sixths. Let's look at number 2. It says subtract the mixed number. So I'm subtracting here. The first thing I'm going to do is look at my fraction part of the mixed number. 3/4 minus 2/4. I can do that because 3 is bigger than 2. 3/4 minus 2/4 equals how many fourths? That would be 1/4. The denominator stays the same. Now I can subtract my wholes. 5 minus 2, that equals 3, to get an answer of 3 1/4. Alright, let's check out number 3. It says find an equivalent fraction, show your work. Equivalent fraction, I know, means an equal fraction. And I know that I have to show my work to get full credit. So if I have to make 2 6 into an equivalent fraction, the easiest thing I can do is just multiply by 2 over 2. If I do that, 2 times 2 equals 4. 6 times 2 equals 12. Remember, my denominators don't have to be the same when I'm multiplying. So 4/12 would be an equivalent fraction, and that could be your answer. Maybe you didn't multiply by 2 over 2. Maybe you wanted to divide. This is just another option. 2 sixths divided by 2 over 2. You would get 1/3. Either of those answers are correct. You can do either one. I just like to multiply by 2 over 2 because that's the easiest for me. Let's look at number 4. Create an equivalent fraction for 4/10, then add the fractions. Show your work. So again, equivalent fraction, I know I need to make an equal fraction. Then I'm going to need to add. When I'm adding, I need to make sure that my denominators are the same. So I have 10 and 100. Not the same. That's why I need to make an equivalent fraction. So I need to take 4/10 and change it into hundredths. So to do that, I can multiply by 10 over 10. 4 times 10 equals 40. 10 times 10 equals 100. So now I have 40 hundredths plus 12 hundredths. My denominators are the same now, 100 and 100, so I can add my numerators. 40 plus 12 equals 52. My denominator stays the same, and I get an answer of 52 hundredths. Number 5, we've got a word problem. I see that I need to show my work and write my answer. John drank 2 sixths of the punch. Then Sarah drank 3 sixths of the punch. What fraction of the punch did they drink total? So I'm going to bracket my question. Total means I'm going to add. So I'm going to have to add 2 sixths plus 3 sixths. The directions say show your work below, then answer the question in a complete sentence. So I'm not going to just plug this into my calculator. I'm going to actually write 2 6 plus 3 6. I am adding, so my denominators have to be the same. 6 and 6 they are. 2 plus 3 equals 5. My denominator doesn't change while I'm adding, and I get an answer of 6. I still need to write a complete sentence answer. So I'm going to say John and Sarah drank 5 6 of the punch. And I can put total, period. Number 6. Which equation, I know an equation means it's going to have an equal sign, shows how you could decompose the fraction 9/10. Decompose, I know, means breaking my fraction into smaller parts. So I'm going to need to have an addition sentence to show how to decompose. When I look at my choices, A, B, and C, it looks a little confusing, but to make it easier for me to see in my head, I can just write 1/10. That's just saying 1/10. So I can write it like that so it's a little easier. Plus 5/10 plus 2/10. If I add all the numerators up, 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 2 more equals 8. Denominator stays the same, 8/10. That doesn't match 9/10, so it can't be A. For B, 1/10 plus 4/10, that would be 5/10, plus 5 more. That would be 10/10. Oops, there we go. 10/10. That doesn't match 9/10, so it can't be B. For C, 3/10 plus 2/10 equals 5/10, plus 4/10 would equal 9/10. That matches the one, my fraction 9/10, so I'm going to circle it. My answer is C. On the back, we have another word problem for number 6. It says one car has 3/8 of a tank of gas. The other car has 1/4 of a tank of gas. Which fraction is larger? Show work to prove your answer. So even though I see the word of here, which I know means multiply, I'm just comparing fractions. I have to figure out which one is bigger. I'm comparing 3/8 and 1/4. Now I can't compare fractions unless the denominators are the same. So this would be 1/4 if I wrote it that way. This would be 3/8. My denominators, 8 and 4, are not the same. So I'm going to have to change one of them into the other. And I know I can take 1/4, and if I multiply that by 2 over 2, I can get 2/8. Then I can compare it, so I'm going to draw my little symbol here to compare, to the other fraction, which is 3/8. 3/8 is going to be bigger than 2/8, so I'm going to circle that as my bigger fraction. Then I have to write my sentence, which fraction is larger. 3/8 is the larger fraction. Period. Okay, let's move on to number 7. Which decimal shows 2 and 4/100? So I have my choices here, A, B, and C. I can read them to see which one would work. So A would be 2 and 40/100, so that doesn't work because I'm looking for 4/100. B would be 24/100, that's not the same. C would be 2 and 4/100, so my answer is C. So when you have a question like this, you just need to say all the decimals out loud and see which one matches your mixed number. Number 8, which decimal is larger? Circle your choice. So I have 0.30 and 0.6. To compare decimals, I need to make sure I have the same amount to the right of my decimal point. So I have 2 digits in 30. I only have 1 digit in my 6th, so I'm going to add a second digit, and now I can compare. Which one's bigger, 30 or 60? 60 is going to be my bigger one. Number 9, write each decimal as a fraction. I just have to write it how I would say it. So 0.30 I would say is 30/100. And that answer is perfectly good. If you wanted, you could take off the 0 and you could say 3/10. Those are equivalent fractions. Either answer would be okay. For 0.6, I would write 6/10. If I wanted to add a 0 on the end, I could say 60/100. Both of those answers are okay. You only have to have one. Let's look at number 9, multiply. There are a couple different ways you can do this. So you have to show some work here. So 8/10 times 3, I'm going to change it into 8/10 times 3 over 1. That's one way we learned. And 8 times 3 equals 24. Since I'm multiplying here, I don't care if my denominators are the same. I can just do 10 times 1 equals 10. And I can get 24/10. I'm not okay with that, though, because this is an improper fraction. So I'm going to determine how many wholes I have. So 10 is my denominator. 10 times what? Gets me close to 24 without going over. That would be 2. 10 times 2 equals 20. Then I add up my extras, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. I would have a 4 on top here. And then my denominator is going to stay the same, and that's 10. 2 and 4/10. That answer is perfectly fine if you want to leave it just like that. Or we could also simplify it to get 2 and 2/5. So this answer is the simplified version. This one is correct. So that's one way we can do it, by just turning the whole number 3 into a fraction. Another way we learned how to do it is to write an addition equation that matches. We know multiplication is just repeated addition. So I could also write 8/10 plus 8/10 plus 8/10. I don't even need to solve it. I can just show that, and then I have my 2 answers there. The secret word is summer. I'm going to draw some waves like at the ocean. I'm going to draw a sun here. Boop, boop. Yay, summer's coming. Moving on to number 10, I have a word problem. The car says there is 2/3 of a 21-gallon tank left. How many gallons of gas is that? Don't let this word left confuse you. Left usually means subtract, but we have 2/3 of a 21-gallon. I see I have a fraction here, 2/3, and a whole number, 21, so I know that I'm going to need to multiply to get my answer. So I have to show my work. 2/3 times 21 over 1 is the same thing as saying times 21. 2 times 21 equals 42. You can use a calculator to do that, or if you wanted to off to the side, 21 times 2 to get 42. That would work. 3 times 1 equals 3. Now I need to determine 3 times what gets me close to 42 without going over. I don't know that in my head, so I could use my calculator to help me, or I could just do the long division off to the side. So 42 divided by 3. Draw my boxes. 3 times 1, 3. Subtract, I get 1. Bring over my 1 to get 12. 4. 3 times 4 is 12. Subtract to get 0, and I get 14. So there aren't any leftovers. I can get right to 42 and have an answer of 14. That's one way you could have showed your work. Another way you could have showed your work is thinking about division. Total divided by groups equals how many are in each group. I know my total is 21. My groups are my equal groups in the whole. That's going to be my 3. I know, oops, I wrote G there. I should have written a 3. 21 divided by 3 is going to be 7 in each group. But I need to think about the part that I'm focusing on, my numerator, my 2. So now I need to multiply by 2. 7 times 2 equals 14. You can show either of these ways for your work. They're both correct, and they're both going to get you the same answer of 14. Don't forget to write a complete sentence answer. There are 14 gallons of gas left. Number 11. These fractions show how many miles Sally ran each day. I have 3/4, 1/2, 2/4, and 1/2. Put X's on the line plot to show the data. to show this data. So I'm looking at my line plot. I have all fourths in the denominator, and in my data I have 1 that has a 2 in the denominator, 1/2. So I'm going to need to make that an equivalent fraction. I need to change it into fourths. So I'm going to come down here, 1/2 times 2 over 2 will help me get it into fourths. 1 times 2 equals 2, 2 times 2 equals 4 to get 2/4. So I'm going to cross this out and just write 2/4 here. And then I can start putting my data on my line plot. So 3/4, I put 1x here to show 3/4. 2/4, I put 1x here. 1/4, 1x here. And 2/4, I'm going to put that right above my other one. And that's what my data is going to look like. Okay, here's an optional challenge for you if you want to try it out. 4 1/4 minus 3 2/4. First thing we need to do is subtract the fractions. 1/4 minus 2/4. I can't do it because I have smaller minus bigger. So I'm going to need to do some regrouping. And I'm going to take 1 whole, or minus 4 out of 4, out of my whole, and add 1 whole to my fraction side. So if I take away a whole from 4, I'm left with 3. Then 1/4 plus 4/4 equals 5/4. Then I'm going to rewrite my other part, minus 3 2/4. Now I can subtract my fractions. 5/4 minus 2/4 equals 3/4. 3 minus 3 equals 0, which I don't even have to write. And my answer is 3/4. All right, nice job, everybody. Good luck on your test tomorrow. Work hard and show your work. See you later.